I was 53 years old when I finally admitted the truth that had been suffocating me since I was 16. My name is Amara Okafor, and I am the daughter of Nigerian immigrants who sacrificed everything to give me a better life. I became a doctor, married a respectable Igbo man, raised two children, attended church every Sunday, and hosted perfect owambe parties where everyone praised what a good wife I was. But I had never been myself, not once. Not until the day Dr. Thandiwe Molefe walked into my hospital with her confident stride and knowing smile, and my carefully constructed world began to crumble. This is the story of how I spent 36 years living for everyone but myself, and how love finally gave me the courage to claim my own life. The morning of my mother's 75th birthday party, I woke up at 5 a.m. to start cooking jollof rice, egusi soup, and moi moi for 50 guests. Beside me, Chukwudi snored softly, my husband of 27 years, a good Igbo man my parents had approved of before we even dated. We'd met at a Nigerian Students' Association event in London, both of us children of immigrants trying to make our parents proud. As I tied my wrapper around my waist and headed to the kitchen, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Dr. Amara Okafor, respected consultant at Royal London Hospital, pillar of the Nigerian community in East London, mother of two university students. The perfect example of what happens when immigrants' children do everything right. Except nothing felt right. Nothing had felt right since I was 16 and my cousin Ngozi visited from Lagos for the summer. We'd shared my bedroom, stayed up late talking, and one night she'd kissed me. I'd kissed her back, hungry and terrified and more alive than I'd ever felt. The next morning, consumed by shame and fear, I'd told my mother I didn't want to share my room anymore. Ngozi went home early. We never spoke of it again. My mother had sensed something, though. That's when the serious talk about marriage began. "Amara, you are getting to that age," she'd say, stirring her soup with purposeful intensity. "A woman needs a husband, children. It is our way. We didn't come to this country for you to become like these British girls with no respect for family." So I dated Chukwudi because he checked every box. Igbo, Christian, doctor. My parents loved him. His parents loved me. Our wedding was the event of the year in our community. 300 guests, traditional attire, a band flown in from Nigeria. I'd smiled in all the photos, worn the coral beads, done the ceremonial dances, and felt absolutely nothing. 27 years later, as I stirred industrial quantities of jollof rice, I still felt nothing. Chukwudi was a good man. He provided, he was faithful, he let me pursue my career. We'd built what everyone called an exemplary marriage, but we'd stopped having sex years ago and neither of us mentioned it. We were business partners raising children, not lovers. My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter Adana. "Mom, can't make grandma's party. Got exams. Sorry, ex." Relief flooded through me, immediately followed by guilt. What kind of mother was relieved her daughter wouldn't be there? But Adana had started asking questions lately. "Mom, why don't you and Dad ever kiss? Why do you sleep in separate rooms? Are you happy?" I couldn't answer those questions. I'd spent 3 decades not answering them. That afternoon, as guests filled our house with noise and laughter, my mother pulled me aside into the kitchen. "Amara, I am worried about you," she said in Igbo, her hands on my cheeks. "You have everything, good husband, beautiful children, respected career, but you look tired, tired in your spirit." "I'm fine, Mama," I lied, the words automatic after so many years. "A mother knows," she said quietly, "but some things we don't speak of. Some things we carry alone so others don't have to." She squeezed my hands and returned to the party, leaving me standing there wondering what she knew, what she'd always known. Monday morning, I arrived at the hospital for a staff meeting about our new partnership with doctors from South Africa. That's when I saw her, Dr. Thandiwe Molefe, the new consultant in cardiology. She was tall, dark-skinned, with short natural hair, and an air of complete self-possession that made everyone in the room pay attention when she spoke. "Dr. Okafor," she said after the meeting, her South African accent warm and confident. "I've read your research on hypertension in African diaspora communities. Brilliant work. I'd love to collaborate." When our hands touched in greeting, I felt that same jolt of recognition I'd felt with Ngozi 37 years ago. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that my carefully maintained life was about to fall apart. Thandiwe Molefe was unlike anyone I'd ever worked with. She was 45, divorced, and utterly unafraid of taking up space in a world that constantly tried to diminish women like us. In meetings, she challenged senior consultants without hesitation. In the corridors, she laughed loudly, her joy unapologetic and infectious. But it was during our first private research meeting that I realized how dangerous she was to my carefully maintained equilibrium. "So, Dr. Okafor," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk with casual confidence, "tell me about yourself, beyond the impressive CV." "There's not much to tell," I said, defaulting to my standard deflection. "Married, 2 children, work keeps me busy." "That's what you do, not who you are." She tilted her head, studying me with those penetrating dark eyes. "Do you always hide behind your roles?" The question startled me into honesty. "In my community, your roles are who you are, wife, mother, daughter. There isn't supposed to be anything beyond that." "Supposed to be," Thandi repeated, catching the phrase. Interesting choice of words. She leaned forward. "Can I tell you something? I spent 15 years married to a man my family approved of. Good Xhosa man, respected family, everything proper, and I was dying inside. When I finally got divorced and came out, my mother didn't speak to me for 2 years. My heart hammered against my ribs. You're gay?" "Yes, very much so." She smiled, but there was steel underneath. "And I realize this might be uncomfortable for you, but I learned to stop hiding after wasting too many years. Life's too short for pretense." Over the next month, Thandiwe became the center of my world in ways that terrified me. We met 3 times a week, ostensibly to work on our research, but really to talk. She told me about Cape Town, about growing up in post-apartheid South Africa, about the vibrant LGBTQ community there that existed alongside deep conservatism and violence. "People think homophobia is uniquely African," she said one afternoon, "but its colonial legacy. Pre-colonial African societies had space for gender variance, for different ways of loving. Then Christianity came, and suddenly who we are became a sin." I thought about my church, about Pastor Emeka's sermons against sexual perversion, about how my mother's friends whispered about that woman down the street who lived like a man. I thought about how many times I'd sat in those pews and felt like a fraud. "Does your family accept you now?" I asked quietly. "My mother came around when she realized she'd rather have a gay daughter than no daughter at all. My father, we're working on it." Thandi paused. "It's hard. Our communities are everything. We're raised to believe disappointing the community is worse than betraying yourself. But Amara, at some point you have to ask, whose life am I living?" She said my name with such tenderness that I had to look away. The day everything changed, we were working late in my office. Thandiwe had brought food, bunny chow from a South African restaurant in Brixton, and we were laughing about the differences between Nigerian and South African food culture when she suddenly went quiet. "Amara," she said, and something in her voice made me look up. "I need to say something, and I hope it won't ruin our friendship. But I have to be honest because that's who I am now." My mouth went dry. "What is it?" "I have feelings for you. Real feelings. And I hope, you might feel something too." She held up a hand before I could speak. "I know you're married. I know this is complicated, but I also know what it looks like when someone is living in a cage, because I lived there too." Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Years of suppressed truth, of denied desire, of pretending to be someone I wasn't. All of it came flooding out. I can't, I whispered. My family, my children, my community. Do you know what they would say, what they would do? I would lose everything. You already lost everything, Thandiwe said gently. You lost yourself, and that's the only thing you can never get back from hiding. She reached across the desk and took my hand, and I didn't pull away. I sat there crying, holding hands with a woman who saw me, truly saw me, for the first time in my life. I'm scared, I admitted. I know, she said. But Amara, you're 53. How many more years will you give to other people's expectations? I started seeing Thandiwe in secret. Not physically, not yet, but emotionally, I was already gone. We'd meet for coffee in neighborhoods far from our Nigerian community, take walks in parks where we wouldn't be recognized. I was falling in love, and it was the most terrifying, exhilarating thing I'd ever experienced. But keeping secrets in the Nigerian community is nearly impossible. We're all connected. Someone always knows someone who saw someone. The text came from my younger sister, Chinwe. Adaeze saw you at that coffee shop in Shoreditch with some woman. Who is she? Why the secrecy? My heart stopped. Just a colleague, I texted back. Mama is asking questions. You know how she is. That evening, Chukudi confronted me. Not with anger, but with the tired resignation of someone who'd known the truth all along. Who is she? He asked, standing in the doorway of my home office. I could have lied, should have lied, but I was so exhausted from decades of pretense that the truth just came out. Her name is Thandiwe. She's a colleague, and I have feelings for her. Chukudi sat down heavily, and in the long silence that followed, I saw our entire marriage laid bare, a partnership built on duty, not desire, on conformity, not compatibility. Are you gay? He asked finally, his voice barely a whisper. The word hung between us like a verdict. Yes, I said, and speaking it aloud felt like breaking surface after drowning for years. I think I always have been. Why did you marry me? The pain in his voice was real, and I hated myself for causing it. Because it was what I was supposed to do. Because I thought I could make it work. Because I didn't know any other way to be. I was crying now. I'm sorry, Chukudi. You deserved someone who could love you properly. I tried. I really tried. He stood up, walked to the door, then turned back. Does anyone else know? No, just you. It needs to stay that way, he said firmly. Think about the children. Think about your parents. Think about what this would do to our families, to your mother's heart. He left, and I knew he was right. Coming out would destroy everything. My marriage, my relationship with my children, my standing in the community. My mother would be devastated. The aunties would talk. The church would condemn me. Everything my parents had worked for, everything I'd built, would crumble. But staying meant dying slowly. Over the next month, I tried to end things with Thandiwe. We can't do this, I told her. It's impossible. The cost is too high. Then I'll wait, she said simply. I waited 40 years to be myself, Amara. I can wait a little longer for you to find your courage. But I won't watch you kill yourself to make other people comfortable. The crisis came at my mother's church fundraiser. I was serving food when Mrs. Okonkwo, one of the biggest gossips in our community, cornered me. Amara, people are talking, she said in Igbo, her voice dripping with false concern. They say you've been seen with some woman, a South African. People are wondering what kind of friendship requires so much secrecy. My blood ran cold. She's a colleague. We're working on research together. Of course, she said, not believing a word. But you know how people talk. especially about these unnatural things. Best to be careful, for your mother's sake. That night, I had a panic attack, the first in my life. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Thandiwe came over, held me while I sobbed, and said the words that changed everything. Amara, listen to me. I grew up under apartheid. My grandmother was forcibly removed from her home. My mother cleaned white people's houses so I could go to university. I know about sacrifice. I know about survival. But survival isn't the same as living. Our ancestors survived so we could be free. All of us, completely. Honoring them doesn't mean imprisoning yourself. She was right. And in that moment, I made my decision. I told my children first. Adana and Chidi sat across from me in my living room, both home from university for reading week, and I could barely meet their eyes. I need to tell you something important, I began, my voice shaking. I've been lying to you, to myself, to everyone. I'm gay. I've known since I was young, but I buried it because I was afraid. But I can't do it anymore. The silence was deafening. Chidi, my son, spoke first. Is this about that doctor, Thandiwe? Yes, but it's not about her specifically. It's about who I am. Adana's face hardened. So you're going to destroy our family? Break up your marriage? Humiliate Dad and Grandma and all of us in the community? I'm not trying to destroy anything. But you are! She stood up, angry tears streaming down her face. Do you know what people will say? What they'll say about us? We'll never be able to show our faces at church again. Grandma will be devastated, all because you want to be selfish? The word cut deep because part of me believed it. Wasn't I being selfish, choosing my truth over everyone else's comfort? Chidi was quieter, but no less hurt. Why couldn't you just keep it private? Why does everyone have to know? Because I'm suffocating, I said desperately. Because I wake up every day and don't recognize myself. Because your mother has never truly been alive, and I want to live before I die. They left angry, and I didn't blame them. Telling my parents was worse. I went to their house on a Sunday afternoon, after church, when the weight of pretending in that building had become unbearable. My father said nothing, just walked out of the room. My mother cried, deep, wrenching sobs that broke my heart. I don't understand, she kept saying in Igbo. We raised you properly. We taught you our ways. How did this happen? Mama, it's not something that happened. It's who I am. I've always been this way. No, she said fiercely. This is not our culture. This is Western corruption. We didn't struggle, didn't sacrifice everything, for you to throw away your family for this abomination. Mama, please. Do you know what this will do to us? To your father's heart? To our standing in the community? She grabbed my hands. Amara, you can fight this. We'll pray. We'll find someone to help you. You can change. I don't want to change. I want to be myself. She pulled her hands away like I'd burned her. Then you are not the daughter I raised. I left my parents' house feeling like I'd been torn in half. That night, I almost backed down, almost agreed to keep hiding, to stay married, to live the lie for just a little longer. But then Thandiwe called. How did it go? Terribly. They hate me. Everyone hates me. Not everyone. I don't hate you. You don't hate you anymore, and that's what matters. Slowly, painfully, over the next year, I rebuilt my life. I moved out, got my own flat, started divorce proceedings, found a new church, a progressive one with LGBTQ members. Connected with other queer Africans online and in person, discovering a whole community I'd never known existed. Some people in the Nigerian community cut me off completely. Others surprised me, like Auntie Ngozi, not my cousin, a different Ngozi, who called me one day and said, I am too old to lose another niece to silence. My sister's daughter killed herself 20 years ago because of who she loved. I won't watch that happen again. My children came around gradually. Adana especially struggled. But when she saw me with Thandiwe, saw me laugh freely for the first time in her life, she couldn't deny the change. I still don't fully understand it, Mum, she said. But I can see you're actually happy now. I don't think I ever saw that before. My father never spoke to me again before he passed away 2 years later. That grief lives in me still. But my mother, slowly, carefully, began to rebuild our relationship. She came to my flat once, met Thandiwe briefly, and said nothing. But she came, and that was something. I'm 56 now, 3 years into living as myself. Thandiwe and I have a small flat in South London where we cook fusion meals, jollof rice meets bobo tea, and host dinners for other queer Africans who need community. I volunteer with an organization supporting LGBTQ asylum seekers from Nigeria and Uganda. I'm still a doctor, still respected in my field, but now I'm also authentically me. Was it worth it? The pain, the rejection, the loss of so much I held dear? Yes, because I'm finally alive. Because I'm showing my children that integrity matters more than reputation. Because somewhere in Nigeria, in South Africa, across the diaspora, there's a young girl who needs to know it's possible to be both African and queer, both connected to community and true to yourself. The lie that killed me for decades was that I had to choose. I don't. I am Igbo and gay, Nigerian and queer, daughter, mother, doctor, woman, lover, all of it completely. Your truth is waiting. It won't be easy, but it will be yours. And that makes all the difference. Are you living your truth or someone else's expectations? If you're LGBTQ and African diaspora, know that you're not alone. Organizations like the Initiative for Equal Rights, Nigeria, EUT LGBT Wellbeing, South Africa, and UK Black Pride offer community and support. Share your story, your voice matters.